Superman, we finally meet. Would you like a coffee?
Where's the dog?
Dog?
This might be the wildest redemption arc for a comic book villain we've ever seen.
They mention Galileo or Einstein or one of these other twits in the same breath as me, I feel a tide of vomit burn the back of my throat.
It's crazy how one actor can completely sink a legendary villain, while another brings him roaring back to life. You'll see exactly why this shift matters.
You don't understand. There's no time.
When Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice came out, fans were hyped. The promise? An unforgettable version of Lex Luthor, Superman's greatest rival. But what we got instead felt like a bizarre miscalculation. Man, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was a whole mess. Forget the cold chess master villain from the comics. What we got was some weird, jittery tech bro who acted like he just slammed 3 Red Bulls before every scene. Socially awkward, babbling about gods and demons. Basically the king of cringe. Sure, a handful of diehards tried to claim it was bold or fresh. But come on, most folks were just left scratching their heads, wondering who let this guy cook. Then, boom, nearly a decade later, James Gunn strolls in and drops Nicholas Hoult into the role. Wild. Suddenly, Lex is back to being the sharp, menacing genius everyone's been dying to see. Hoult nails it. Cold, calculated, just oozing that classic villain energy. Honestly, it was like someone finally bothered to read the source material. Goes to show, good writing and the right actor can totally flip the script. Fans weren't just relieved, they were hyped. This was the Lex Luthor everyone had been waiting for since, well, forever. And here's where it gets even crazier. Lex Luthor's entire reputation rests on one thing: his brain. He's not faster, he's not stronger. His mind is his greatest weapon. That's why the difference between Eisenberg's and Hoult's versions stands out so much. Eisenberg's Lex spends the whole movie talking like a genius, dropping cryptic lines, rambling about gods and devils, and acting like he's always the smartest guy in the room. But when you look at his actual plan, it's ridiculous. He pits Batman against Superman with zero certainty it'll work, then cooks up Doomsday by mixing alien DNA with his own blood, a creature he couldn't possibly control. Within minutes, Doomsday tries to kill him, and Lex only survives because Superman saves him. That's not brilliance, that's recklessness disguised as intellect. Hoult's Lex, on the other hand, doesn't just say he's smart, he proves it. He studies Superman for years, memorizes his powers, and builds counter strategies to exploit his every weakness. He even creates a clone that's entirely under his control, ensuring it can't backfire like Doomsday. This is comic book Lex, a man whose genius makes him dangerous. And honestly, isn't that way scarier?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
But wait, it takes an even wilder turn when you look at their personalities. Because brains alone don't make Lex Luthor terrifying. His presence, the way he commands a room, is just as important. Eisenberg's Lex, he's twitchy, erratic, and awkward. He stutters mid-sentence, cracks his voice, and acts more like a nervous tech bro trying to pitch a startup than a master manipulator. Even in his big face-off with Superman, Eisenberg shakes and looks terrified, completely killing the sense that this guy could ever be a true rival. Visually, it's even worse. Next to Henry Cavill's towering Superman, Eisenberg looks tiny, more like Sheldon Cooper playing dress-up than the world's most dangerous criminal mastermind. Now compare that to Hoult. Calm, cold, and absolutely collected, he exudes authority the second he walks on screen. He doesn't panic when Superman barges into his office. He smirks, stays composed, and even takes a sip of coffee as if nothing phases him. Physically, Hoult's stature gives him an edge too. At 6 feet 3 inches, he can stand eye to eye with Superman, instantly selling the idea that he belongs in the same conversation. This is key. Lex isn't supposed to be silly or nervous. He's supposed to be intimidating without even raising his voice. Hoult nails it. Here's the thing. A villain is only as good as their motivation. And this is where the gap between Eisenberg and Hoult becomes a canyon. Eisenberg's Lex is fueled by, well, it's honestly hard to say. He rambles about gods and demons, about power being dangerous in the wrong hands, and hints at childhood trauma with an abusive father. But none of that feels tied to Superman in any meaningful way. His hatred seems vague, like he just needed a target, and Superman was convenient. As a result, his actions feel detached from the core conflict. Why does Lex, the most brilliant man alive, waste so much time making speeches instead of focusing on a clear goal? It leaves the character feeling shallow and muddled. Hoult's Lex, however, is sharp and crystal clear. His motivation is envy and ego. He cannot stand that Superman represents perfection, a flawless alien who makes humanity look weak. Hoult's Lex channels that resentment into a personal crusade, framing it as protecting humanity. But really it's about proving he's better. That makes him so much scarier because he reflects real human flaws. Jealousy, arrogance, and fear of being overshadowed. It's grounded, it's believable, and it's everything Lex should be. And then there's the visual factor.
Envy is a calling. It is the sole hope.
Lex Luthor isn't just an evil genius. He has to look like a man who could hold power in the real world. Eisenberg's version struggles here more than anywhere else. He's this twitchy little guy, always buzzing like he's had way too much coffee. Not exactly the vibe you'd expect from a ruthless business tycoon or some shadowy political boss. Honestly, he's got more of a mad scientist energy. Like the dude who'd accidentally blow up his own lab, not take over the world. The thought of anyone, world leaders, Wall Street sharks, random folks on the street, being actually scared of him? Come on, that's comedy. He doesn't project menace, just a kind of nervous, fidgety chaos. Now Hoult's Lex? A whole different league. The guy's got this calm, almost icy swagger, like he could walk into a room and everyone would just know he's in charge. He stands tall, never slouching, and doesn't need to shout to get attention. Everything about him, his steady voice, that cool stare, even the way he holds himself, screams authority. You could totally see him on a giant stage, hypnotizing a crowd into thinking he's humanity's savior, while secretly plotting to wipe Superman off the map. That's the kind of vibe you need in live action. Not just brains, but pure magnetic presence. Because Lex Luthor isn't just Superman's rival in secret. He's often a public figure, a businessman, and even a politician. Hoult embodies all of that believably. When he stares down Superman, you can actually imagine the world siding with him. And that's exactly why presence matters. At the end of the day, Lex Luthor is one of the most iconic villains in comic history. What makes him unforgettable is his genius, his unshakable confidence, and his rivalry with Superman. Fans know Lex as the man who doesn't need superpowers, just his mind, resources, and willpower to challenge a god. Eisenberg's version strayed way too far from that template. Instead of the cool, strategic mastermind, we got a twitchy bundle of quirks who felt more Silicon Valley startup than criminal genius. It was different, sure, but different isn't always good, especially when it abandons the core of the character. Hoult, though, feels like he stepped straight out of the pages of DC Comics. He's arrogant without being cartoonish, strategic without being boring, and dangerous without ever needing to raise his voice. That faithfulness is what finally gave fans the Lex they've been asking for. And here's the part people often forget.
Kentucky girl like yourself?
An actor is only as strong as the material they're given. Eisenberg wasn't acting in a vacuum. He was performing the Lex that Zack Snyder and the script envisioned. That version leaned heavily into eccentricity, with rambling monologues and awkward energy. The writing didn't support him, and the result was a character that felt alienating and off-putting to most audiences. James Gunn took the opposite route with Hoult. Instead of odd tangents and vague philosophy, he gave Lex sharp dialogue and a clear sense of strategy. The direction kept him grounded, menacing, and believable. Hoult was able to shine because the writing respected who Lex is supposed to be. It's a reminder that performances don't exist in isolation. Eisenberg failed with his script, while Hoult was elevated by his. And that's why one Lex flopped while the other thrived.
My father named the company after himself. He was the Lex in front of the corp. How you doing?
If you want proof of how different these two versions landed, just look at the audience response. Eisenberg's Lex was widely mocked the moment Batman v Superman hit theaters. His stuttering speeches, strange mannerisms, and over-the-top delivery quickly turned him into meme material. Critics called him miscast. Fans said he didn't resemble Lex in any form. and the performance became one of the movie's most talked about flaws. Hoult's Lex, on the other hand, flipped the script completely. From his first appearance, fans praised the menace in his eyes, the precision of his words, and the way he embodied the comic book version. Critics highlighted him as a standout, and audiences flooded social media, calling him the best live-action Lex we've had so far. That contrast shows how much execution matters. The same character can either tank a film or elevate it to greatness.
The problem of absolute virtue.
I'll take you in without breaking you.
When people talk about Eisenberg's Lex today, it's usually as one of the weakest villains in modern superhero movies. He's remembered less for his intellect or rivalry with Superman, and more for being a strange experiment that didn't work. That legacy weighed heavily on DC's reputation and made fans nervous about seeing Lex again. Hoult's Lex changes that narrative. Instead of a one-off misfire, he feels like a character built for the long game. His presence sets the stage for Superman's future, a rival who can grow, evolve, and sustain multiple films without losing credibility. He's not just a villain of the week, he's the kind of antagonist who defines Superman's journey. And that matters not just for Lex, but for the DCU itself. A strong, faithful Lex proves the franchise is serious about honoring its icons and restoring trust with its audience. Lex Luthor defines Superman's greatness, and Nicholas Hoult finally gave us the version fans have been waiting for. Sharp, menacing, and true to the comics. He proves why Jesse Eisenberg's take failed. Which Lex do you prefer? Hoult's cold strategist or Eisenberg's chaotic tech bro? Drop your thoughts below.